may bring up again when I talk later on in a video after these main three about kind of like historical accuracy in medieval fantasy type literature. But basically the prompt, the catalyst, to say, of me doing this video was when I was rewatching Thor on Netflix. And unfortunately, for my own sanity, I decided that I wanted to go look on IMDb. Because I like to look at IMDb sometimes, just see what other people think, match my opinions against other people, especially when it's like an older party. Like I do this a lot with Gilmore Girls. I'm always checking to see what all the older Gilmore Girls fans think in contrast to me. And we are totally different. When I do my real Gilmore Girls review, oh my god, all the Gilmore Girls fans are going to hate me because I'm the complete opposite of most of them. But anyway, so I was looking at IMDb, and one of the threads that I saw immediately was, why is Heimdall black? And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, I know that it's gonna piss me off, but I have to click it. I have to see what people were saying. And while some people were defending it, a lot of people were calling it PC casting, that the actor chosen was not fit for the role. And I think that with the controversy that arose from Star Trek Into Darkness and the kind of like issues with that, and then contrast with this kind of thing, and with the new kind of rumor about how there might be a black actor who wants to play Johnny Storm in the upcoming Fantastic Four reboot, I really want to discuss this kind of issue of PC casting and the issue that I find with a lot of arguments that happen when you have this kind of race bending of taking a popular character or a semi-popular character or just a character in general who was white in one property and then making him non-white when you do an adaptation of said property. So just to kind of like set the stage for this, the black actor in question who played Heimdall in Thor, for those of you who don't know, is Idris motherfucking Elba. He's an amazing actor. Like his show Luther, which the next series is coming out soon. I'm super excited for it. He is a great actor, and basically, he was one of the best actors in this movie, although he had a very minute role. And the issue is that in the comic books, Heimdall was a white male, and in Norse mythology, Heimdall was known as being like the white, you know, about being a very, character who's known for their whiteness. And so the casting of a black actor was something ironic and something that was chosen purposely to put diversity into it. And I like that kind of thing. I enjoyed it when they had that stuff done in Merlin with Elion and with Guinevere, playing them as people of color, while their names also signify their whiteness. So there are people who took this casting of Idris Elba in this role as PC casting, that they put him in this role so that there was diversity. There was also an Asian character who was part of the Warriors 5 or 3 of Thor's warrior group, and that was also an issue. Then we jump to recently with Star Trek Into Darkness, where, spoilers for the movie if you haven't seen it already, although I'm pretty sure most people have heard about this because they were not very good at making this about making this unknown to people, was that the character of Khan was played by probably one of the whitest men on the planet, Benedict Cumberbatch. The issue that came about was that the character of Khan was, in the original Star Trek, the man of color. You can argue that there are problems with the way that character is written, but at the core, he was a man of color, and he is one of the most iconic villains and characters in Star Trek. Wrath of Khan is legendary in the Trek fandom, and when you take into consideration the historical significance of Star Trek, both socially, racially, and what Khan stood for amidst a society that had an idea that non-whites couldn't be superior or equal to whites, there is a lot of significance to Khan and him being a man of color in the Star Trek universe. So when people were discussing this, and especially a lot of people of color and allies were talking about how this is an issue because they were whitewashing this character, people were arguing that they probably just picked the best actor for the job. And that's that's this problem with this idea of PC casting. And this is not to take anything from Benedict Cumberbatch, who is also a great actor. I don't think any of the controversy about him being cast has anything to do with his acting caliber. I don't think anyone will say he's a bad actor whether they like him or not as a person or so on and so forth. But the issue is that when you have a black person or a non-white person getting a role that is not quote-unquote meant for them because the character is originally white, the excuse is that this is a way for Hollywood to be more diverse, more politically correct. But when a white actor gets a role that is whitewashed and was supposed to be given to a person of color, it is always seen as them having picked the best person for the role. You saw this with the whole controversy with Katniss. This was an issue when Dario was cast because even though for the casting call it said to cast a non-white person, they still cast a white person in it. In Drive, Carey Mulligan's character was originally Latina. So there have been issues, you know, 21, the movie, everything with The Last Airbender, there have been huge issues with whenever these kind of things are done, there's always an idea, they pick the best person for the job. That maybe there just wasn't enough black or Asian or South Asian actors around to fit these roles. And that's a problem because when we get the roles, we are just there because they want to make it cool and hip so that, you know, non-white, no one will call racism. But when whites take those roles that are meant for us, they're just better than we are, and therefore they were always more qualified to get it. And that's the whole problem with PC casting, is that it's basically bullshit. It's basically to defend the fact that you had a character who was white and is now black, and you have an issue with that. And the thing that I think is the most grating about the issue with Idris Elba's controversy was that his character is largely insignificant. If you count up how long he's in the movie, he's in it for like maybe 5-6 minutes. He has very few lines. He's more just a symbolic thing. He has a great presence, and I thought that, you know, for what we saw of him, he was great, but there was really nothing that anyone was losing from the casting as Heimdall. He's not Thor, even though he could probably play that. He's not Loki, he's not Odin, he's not Freya, he's not anyone major in this thing. You barely see him in the movie, and yet this was an issue for people. And yet when you have an iconic man of color villain in Khan, the fact that that's changed to a white person is seen as just, they picked the best person. And that's not fair, to be quite frank. It's not fair because it's not fair to assume that when we get roles, we're just doing it for the sake of it. And this became a real issue for me that I realized when I entered the Merlin fandom. I'm a huge fan of Merlin. And basically, Angel Colby, who is on my wall right here, is my queen. I love her. She's amazing. She's a brilliant actress. And she was cast as Guinevere in Merlin. And it was a huge controversy. People talked about how she was ugly, how she looked like a monkey, a donkey. There were so many racially charged complaints dodged against her, and complaints about the fact that her being black and in Camelot and becoming Queen of Camelot was too jarring for audiences because it wasn't historically accurate, and that they only picked her to diversify the cast. Mind you, she was, of the younger actresses, of the younger actors, period, one of the best ones. Her and Colin were the best actors on that show, consistently. Bradley eventually caught up, but he was never as good. Katie McGrath is gorgeous, but she's always been the weakest of the younger leads. Angel and Colin are the best young actors on Merlin, period. But yet, her being non-white has always been an issue for her character, on top of being in between the popular / relationship, and the backlash from it is ridiculous, because what I find insane, I'll talk about this when I talk about historical accuracy in fantasy, is this idea that in a story that's based on a legend that is not any way historically accurate at all in how the world is constructed, the fact that there are magic and dragons and basically everything about these myths in Merlin is not accurate, because you have a young Merlin. Arthur is not any way the way he was before in the myths, but yet the fact that she is black and does not belong is the biggest issue, and therefore PC casting. And that's why I love how after she broke away after Merlin was canceled and she was on Dancing on the Edge, everyone was talking about how brilliant she was. And this was a fact. She was always brilliant. But because because she was playing a role that she wasn't meant for, there was controversy. And I'm glad that people from Merlin stuck to their guns and kept her, because she was great in that performance, and is one of the best Guinevere's I've ever seen doing that role, because they actually gave her a lot to do. Well, not a lot, but they gave her things to do. And so this idea that she didn't deserve that role because she doesn't fit it is ridiculous, and because she's not beautiful enough. Angel Colby is gorgeous. Anyone who tells me otherwise, I don't need to tell. Like, you can't tell me that she's not gorgeous. She is gorgeous. She has ethnic features. She's not Katie McGrath, because, you know, Katie McGrath is very white, and she is, you know, Katie McGrath has Eurocentric features. You know, Angel has a larger nose, a fuller mouth. She's a little bit older than most of the things. She's older than basically most of the main leads. She's the oldest one, but she doesn't look it, because black don't crack. Y'all know. But it was just ridiculous, and the conflict about Idris is even more ridiculous. But the whole thing was, one, the comic books, and two, because he was a god, and based on Norse mythos, and there are people who do kick to the old ways and do worship the Norse gods. And this is not to disrespect them, because there's nothing wrong with being a pagan and worshiping those gods. But I would like to stop this pretending that it's because of religion that this was an issue. Because if it was about religion, this would not be the same movie, because nothing about this movie is really in keeping with the lore, or even the comic books to a degree, number one. And number two, actual historical accuracy with religious figures has never been an issue when portraying them. How many years have we had white Jesus and fat Buddha, and, you know, those things are not true to the actual gods that we're that you're talking about worshiping. So that just seemed very, like, ungenuine, because that's never been an issue. When people stop having white Jesuses and fat Buddhas, they can talk to me, because every faith will take their deity and transcribe it to fit their world. And if we're taking this Norse mythos and putting it into modern day cinema, it has to be more reflective. This PC casting that people call it is just making the world and the media as diverse as it always should have been. This is not a society that has ever been completely homogeneous, and therefore the fact that we've had a cinema and products that have made it look that way for years has always been wrong, and we should correct that whenever we can. And I don't see what the problem is. And I think the worst part about this, and I'll talk about this again in the video that's coming up later on, is that we know from, like, social studies about the origins of society having taken place in Mesopotamia, which is what we call the Fertile Crescent, which is like the Middle East right now. We know about empires that span from Asia to the northern part of Africa all the way to Europe. So we know that there have been mixings of cultures forever. There were, of course, ages where there wasn't a lot of transit because of people dying and things like that. But in our history, we are finding even more now that Vikings have probably traveled to parts of Africa because they found some boats, that they've come here, you know, that there is intermixing between the northern part of Africa and parts of the Mediterranean. You see that in some Greek art, the whole myth of Andromeda. And yet, when we try to do that, it's an issue. Like I said before in another video, Andromeda is the princess of Ethiopia, but has almost always been white in mythology adaptations, but no one has a problem with that. No one will ever talk about why that's wrong. But if you give a character who was supposed to be white and was known for his whiteness, and he's only a 5-minute character, and he gets placed with a dark, beautiful man, all of a sudden, it's controversy, it's PC casting. It cannot be about his caliber just owning that presence. And that's what pisses me off about this whole term, is that it's really just people being butthurt and not really caring about it. Because if they got if what matters is the best actor, then why the fuck isn't it Idris? Who would you pick? Because every time they want to pick actors for these roles, it's all with the same 5 British dudes. Like, I'm sorry, your flavor of the week British man is not always the best person for these roles.